Hello and welcome to the No Flipping Excuses Show, the only podcast in real estate investing that teaches what you need to know to find and flip deals right now. Wow. Break free the chains that are holding you back and join us on this episode with Jason Lucchese.
Hey, what's up? It's Jason Lucchese, and welcome to the No Flipping Excuses Show. I am super excited that you are here with us right here, right now, because we're going to be discussing a brand new topic. We've got my good friend, Mr. Michael Mergell, joining us on today's episode. He is a phenomenal real estate agent, and also he's an investor doing some great things here in the Indianapolis market. So, Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Michael's also a fellow board member with me on the Indianapolis Real Estate Investors Association. We've been there now, I think, a couple of years. I've been there, I think, I don't know, 3 or 4, and you came in a couple of years ago now. And we've been able to communicate much better recently because I've known of Michael for a while. This guy's been doing a lot of big things in the indie market. He's a top producer with Keller Williams. And I met him a long time ago because he was the guy known as doing a lot of short sales. And that's what I first originally got my foot in. And I met and talked with him, and I've known Michael for a very long time now. And I wanted to get him on so that we can talk to an actual real estate agent about how you could start working with them. So before we hop into that though, Michael, could you tell people a little bit about your background and how long you've been in the business and kind of like what are you seeing things right now doing in the marketplace?
Yeah, glad to. I appreciate that. I've actually been in as an active participant in the real estate market for about 27 years. Based here in Indianapolis. I'm originally from Los Angeles. I moved out here and got into real estate through new construction, and spent a lot of time, which is in that, and then moved on into Remax, and then most recently onto Keller Williams. We're actually, I'm now part of the one of the largest teams at Keller Williams. We're number 18 actually in the entire United States as far as number of teams. And so we've got a lot of background. I've got 24 agents that back me, and we're a real strong team here locally. But we focus a lot on investors, and like you said, my background is heavily in short sales and distressed properties.
Gotcha. No, that's awesome. Yeah. Michael's, doing some really big things, and I'm glad I'm able to talk with him from time to time about some of the things that we're doing as well, because we're working with some homeowners right now that are working directly with Michael. So we're excited to get that ramped up. But one of the things, Michael, I wanted to get you on here because a lot of brand new investors, they tend to get their confidence completely derailed when folks, maybe they watch a YouTube video, maybe they're going through our training program. They tend to get into a spot to where they put themselves in a box and they don't want to go and talk to real estate agents. I'm not sure what it is. When I first got started, I just looked at real estate agents as an opportunity to do business with them. But a lot of folks, I don't know if it's just like they don't want to go and talk to real estate agents. I'm not sure what it is. Could you shed a little bit of light on what you may think it is, like with new investors not really having the confidence to go and speak to folks like yourself?
I think what it is a lot of times people, and especially, new investors, they feel like maybe this real estate agent has a little more experience than me. They know a little bit more about things. They're going to take my deal and they're going to broadcast it to the world, and I'm going to lose out. And so I think it's all about finding the right agent, setting expectations. When you're working with a real estate agent, you need to interview them just like you're interviewing a new employee. And you need to say, hey, here's my expectations, without like the lure of, I've got 10 deals, I've got 5, I've done 20 in the past, or whatever it is. you've actually got to meet with them and tell them, like, here's what my expectations are. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I want to accomplish. And actually interview that agent, and maybe even, have a written agreement with them that, that they're not going to surpass you or do something. But I run into this all the time. I'll run into wholesalers, I'll run into other investors, and they'll be like, oh my God, you're going to come in and you're going to take my deal. You're going to like sell it to somebody else. Someone's going to get a better price. The seller's going to get a better price. At the end of the day, we're really, in servitude to the investor or to the client. And so we're actually looking, or at least the right realtor is looking to, how can we serve you best? When we enter an agreement with you, we're looking to, work out your best interest. Now, that being said, certain laws allow or provide for us to take care of the clients and other people that are involved in the transaction. We've got to be fair to them and what have you. But all that can be accomplished, and you can still get your goals accomplished. You just have to get the right realtor who's working for you, who is, willing to take on your agenda.
Gotcha. So, a lot of our listeners, they're all over the board. We've got brand new people all the way on up to, experienced investors that are doing, 100, 200, 300 deals per year. For those brand new folks that are first getting started, I know there's somewhat of an intimidation factor for talking to real estate agents. And I find it very crucial that real estate agents could really play a pivotal role in really helping you get your business started, because they could obviously scour the MLS for certain deals. But what would you say? Where's the best way? What's the best course for finding investor-friendly agents such as yourself? Say if somebody's not here in the Indianapolis market, where do you recommend that they go to find somebody that's investor-friendly?
I think that you can find realtors that are involved in investor type transactions through things like, locally we have INREA. And RIA is actually, everywhere in different states and stuff. And so you can look for that brand. You can look for people that specialize in working with investors. But really, you're going to have to talk to some people. It's like finding that best assistant, finding that best person for the job. You're going to have to kiss a few frogs before you find that prince, essentially.
Yep.
And so you're going to have to do your best to, talk to the people, find the right person. You're going to have to find the right personality. You're going to have to find that person that understands what you want to accomplish, that agrees to, your agenda. And of course, your agenda has to be one that, supports the right realtor. It's got to be a fair agenda. It's got to be one that not only helps, yourself as an investor, but, also benefits, the clients. Jason, you and I are working on a couple of deals right now where we're working with short sales.
Yep.
And that's a touchy subject. Not only, we've got a good investor in this case, a well-funded investor in your case, and we can certainly buy the property, but we have to be fair to that person to make sure that they're being taken care of, that, we're not taking advantage of them. And that's, excuse me, that's got to be, something that's, on your agenda as well. And so I would just say, you can look and see certain people that are on the web, on their website or their web page or their, landing page that might say something, what they typically do. You might look for someone that's investor based, such as we are. And then from there, interview that person, see if they're the right fit, see if it makes sense. Let them know, like, here's how I do business. Can you work with me, and can you play this part? And be very specific. Your part is this. It's these 5 things I need you to do. It's these 10 things, these 20 things, these 30 things, whatever it is, and make sure that, they're willing to participate. Maybe get it in writing. It's something you make part of a listing agreement, something you make part of a verbal agreement or a written contract.
No, I agree with you on that. When I was getting started back in 2008, I think I literally spoke to anywhere between 70 and 80 real estate agents to find, just probably less than a handful of ones that I could do business with. And I remember even coming and meeting with you at Remax. It was very intimidating because you were doing a lot of volume. You were doing a lot of short sales. And, I just came in there and I was just like, I'm going to just meet with these guys. And if there's something we can do, great. But most people might get freaked out by that. Somebody that's doing that much volume as a real estate agent. But, if somebody's investor friendly, you should go and speak with them. Is there any certain lingo that, you as a real estate professional, with a license wants to hear from somebody that's brand new? Like, somebody just got started. Maybe they've been listening to our podcast for the past year. Is there anything that you would recommend to somebody, that's wanting to talk to somebody like yourself? Is there anything in particular you would like to hear from them?
I can't speak for all realtors. I can speak for myself. And that's what I typically look for, are people that are driven, that they've got a certain goal in mind. And their goals are bigger than themselves. It's not like, hey, I want to get my first deal. Hey, I want to get, 5 deals this month. It's like, I want to buy a condo on the beach for, my family. I want to pay off my house. I want to achieve all these things. And the way that I've figured out to do that is to sell real estate. And because of that, I need to do 22 deals this year. I need to do 2 a month. I need to do 25 a year, whatever it is. When I see where someone has actually set out a personal set of goals that they want to accomplish, and now they've harnessed the engine of real estate investment to get there, that's what really turns me on. And I'm like, either myself or one of my team members is going to work with that person wholeheartedly, because we know that they're in it to win it. We get so many people that come along and go, yeah, send me your best deal, and they send me out these mass emails, and we're kind of like, I've seen this email, this exact template from someone else 20, 30 times, this month. And we still continue to see that. But when you get to the, chest to chest meeting with somebody and you feel like, this is something they want, they're driven, and of course we're going to vet them out to make sure they have the ability, the money behind them, whatever it is, the knowledge, the training. And I can tell you this, we've actually had some people that have come in that have very little training, but have the will, the drive, the dream, the written goals, the vision board, whatever it is. And we'll actually, train that person ourselves and say, here's what you need to do. The reality is, like you said, I'm an active investor, but I'm all cash. I don't borrow money when I buy anything. And so I can't buy everything in the world.
Right.
And so I come across, I'm constantly looking for myself. We come across tons and tons of deals. And so we're happy to pass those on to people that are able, but they have to be willing, and willing in a big way. And that's what we look for.
No, I like what you said about the whole education part. I love that people get the education, but a lot of them don't do the whole application. They don't apply it out on the real world, the reality. So, like for me, I went through a couple training programs. I went through them as quickly as possible so that I could actually apply it. I just tried coming off the best way that I could when I was getting started. So I like that you brought that up. And it leads to the next question. For somebody that's getting started, maybe they're having trouble. Maybe they've talked to, 40, 50 real estate agents, and they're not finding the right one, which I kind of find it hard to believe. But let's just say worst case scenario here, Michael. What would you say to somebody, that is having trouble? Would you recommend, hey, go get your realtor license if all you want to do is just use the MLS for, comps and maybe finding properties? Or what would you recommend to somebody in that case? Because sometimes it can be difficult to find somebody, and especially find somebody that maybe, you want to start placing some bids on HUD homes. You need an agent that's going to be able to check that stuff out every day. And if they check it out every other day, they could potentially miss out on counter offers and all that kind of stuff. So what would you recommend in that case?
Yeah. Let me go back to the first part of something you said. The two things that everybody needs to have is a consistency and accountability. are the two things that will propel you. So even when you're, maybe falling down or having a bad month or a bad couple of weeks or the bad first days, you need to be consistent, because I literally look at it like this. I still get a lot of no's. I've been doing this for almost 27 years. I get a lot of no's, but every no that I get, I realize I'm that much closer to a yes.
Yep.
And so you have to do that. As far as getting your license, this job is not for everybody. This is a very expensive business to begin in, and on top of that, our whole world is changing right now. I don't know if you guys realize, but realtors are going through this entire shift. Right now, we have 1.2 million realtors between the United States and Canada, in North America. And that number is going to drop to about 700,000 to 800,000 in the next 12 to 18 months because of the shift that's going on in the market. And so this is a very tough time to be getting your license. It's a very expensive business. I mean, you can count on $20,000 to $30,000 just to be in business. And so unless you're doing such a volume that you can bring that on, leverage everything that you do. Put the responsibility, that cost, that liability on a realtor. Put it on a trusted realtor, and let them take the responsibility of pulling the comps, of setting the expectations for your end buyer or whatever it is. But if it's for you, where you're essentially going, well, I'm missing out on this deal, but if I was a realtor, I can turn around and list this thing myself, by all means do it. You'll be the investor's realtor for sure, but it's a tough business to be in. I mean, I have had my ups and downs over the last 27 years. I'm fortunate enough to still be here. There are a lot of people that I started with that are no longer in this industry. And there are a few that are still there with me, and those people are on my team.
No, that's really great insight that you were able to share there, and that brings us up to from that answer that you gave. Are you seeing something similar to where there was a ton of agents pre-2008, like a ton of agents across, the United States and also Canada? Are you starting to see something similar in our market? You've been probably through a couple market cycles right now. Are you starting to see it to where if agents aren't adapting, they're going to kind of weed themselves out like they did after the crash did, and they didn't know how to respond properly and they didn't know what to do? Are you starting to see that? Is that why you're starting to? Is that why the numbers within the next 12 months are going to scale back so far?
Well, we're actually seeing like a change in our market. Not only are we seeing a little bit of a shift in the market, and I can tell you that, no one needs to go run for the hills or anything. We're not seeing like a shift like we saw in 2006, 2007, 2008, like you mentioned. What we're seeing is a market that's returning back to its original state. The last 2 years, we saw a market that, like everybody, they're out buying. The confidence was high. They're moving along.
Right.
But what we're starting to see is a market shifting back to a normal state. A house is not going to sell in the next 30 hours. It's going to take 30 to 60 days to sell.
Right.
And so, an investor, you're going to have to price it a little bit more accordingly. Let's face it. The worst case is you don't make 20% on the deal. You make 15% on the deal, but you sell more deals because you're at 15%. So we're definitely seeing that shift. What we're seeing as agents on an all-out assault is much like the insurance agent is seeing. Is we're seeing the technology taking over, and it's not even like Zillow. Zillow is failing in a big way. Their viewership is down 20% from what it was last year.
Wow.
And they may actually shift into more of a rental platform, but we are seeing technology, kind of take over. We're seeing a full-out attack on real estate agents from the banks, from technology providers such as Zillow, where they can go, you don't need to make as much commission. We don't need you. We've got all this information. We have access to the MLS or what have you. Gotcha. And so, where realtors or real, professional realtors that have been around for a while provide is they're going to provide the ability to have that safeguard, because a computer can tell you, hey, this is a good buy. we actually talked about one over the last couple of days, and I think maybe you guys thought it might be a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But the reality is to be able to have somebody look at it and go, no, look, this is what I'm seeing, to actually give you a human voice. That's where, those type of realtors will excel. They may make a slightly lower commission, but they're going to do more deals over time. And so as we see that shift over, what we've seen, of course, for things being easy, is we get the typical agent that comes in and goes, oh, I can sell real estate, it's easy. My mom and dad want to buy and sell a house. My aunt and uncle, my brother, my uncle, whatever it is. And then they actually run out. They literally have no plan to work on talking to strangers, to creating a business. And so those unbusiness-minded realtors are kind of like what we call the one and done.
Yeah.
They come in, do 5-6 transactions, they're nowhere to be around. I'm with Keller Williams now. When I was at RE/MAX, I saw during the course of 17 years, probably 12 different leaders take the board as number one.
Wow.
And it was because of where their business came from. And it just shows you how fragile you are. And so realtors that are just hammering it down, they know their niche, much like a doctor might, and they're just essentially focusing on what's best. My niche is investors, because I am an investor. I'm the investor's realtor. Is, those people that are focusing on what they do best and accelerating and constantly, learning about that, well, there's always going to be a need for that person.
Yep. No, I agree with you 100%. Now obviously Q4 is here in 2018, moving into the end of 2018 and beyond. What do you think as far as where the market is at? And I know you could speak obviously a lot on Indiana, but if you could shed any light on what your thoughts are from a professional, where do you think the market's going? I know notice of defaults, so foreclosure judgments are on a slight increase. But from your opinion, where do you think the market is headed?
Okay, so we're in the Midwest here in Indiana, and so what we see is a lot of market indicators are from the outside moving in. And so what we are seeing things like a lot of the REO companies that handle, the bank-owned transactions, the servicers for that, a good chunk of those are in Scottsdale, Arizona. And in fact, 4 of the biggest, largest, ones are. And at least 3 of those we've seen started a huge hiring frenzy. And so that tells us that they're seeing some economic indicator that, things are going to rise up. And I'm personally excited about it as an investor and as a realtor, that, short sales and, defaults are going to go up, because it means, opportunities for us as investors, us as investor realtors. I certainly care about all my clients, and I don't, like to see anybody get into jeopardy or have a problem. But I like the fact that we've now got clear established, ways to take care of those people. In the past, we did not.
Right.
When I started this back in like 05, 06, and I was selling short sales, we were riding along with Bank of America, and they had no clue how to handle a short sale.
Right.
I like to feel that we had something to do with that in Indiana and where they got. Now, the title companies finally settled in because, they were insuring all these closings, and they were so iffy and bumpy that they actually created Equator and some other programs that they were able to offer these banks and kind of get there. So I see that. I think as the Midwest, we are fortunate, in one way we're unfortunate because we don't see 16, 20, 30% return on investment, immediately as the equities, keep on climbing every year. But we also don't see those huge falls. We typically see 3% in Indiana. You're going to see 3% up or 3% down. And so I think my prediction, and I'm lucky enough to be in the position of the CEO in my group in Indiana, to be able to talk to some of the leadership, including Gary Keller. And I believe we're going to have a solid 2019. 2020 is going to be a big election year, and there's going to be some turmoil. And so this is going to be the time where, you really need to make your money. And so to go back to one of the first things you said in the last question is, what do you do right now in the fourth quarter? Well, this is the time where everybody's leaning back. Hey, we just passed Halloween. We're in November, guys. We're less than 3 weeks away from Thanksgiving. And then after that, we're all thinking about Christmas. So everybody is like leaning back. They're not thinking about it. People have not put their house back on the market. They're thinking they're going to wait till spring, and we don't even know what spring's going to bring. We know it's going to bring a lot of competition. It's going to bring higher interest rates. We know there's going to be a lot of things that are going to essentially affect us in somewhat of a negative way or a competitive way. So now's the time to be just working as hard as you possibly could. If there was ever a time, knowing that there's a change coming in possibly 2020, it's right now. It's these next 2 months, because no one else is doing it. You're going to have the opportunity to talk to investors and talk to sellers and buyers and what have you that are just not being talked to by anyone else because everybody's leaning off. I can tell you already, I go into my office and we're a big team, but we have other teams that are throughout the whole office, and there's a lot less traffic there. I go to the copier often and I don't see too many people there. So now's the time to be on the phone, calling, reaching out to people.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And I never really understood why people took so much time off, especially like when you're on a commission-based structure. Like when I was at the mortgage business, so many LOs would take off in November, December, January. They wouldn't work as hard, and then they would wonder why their pipeline was never moving. It's because they didn't have time to grow one, or didn't make time to grow one. So I like that you were able to share some insights on what you think is potentially going to happen here with the market. Obviously, nobody has a crystal ball, but a lot of what you said, a lot of the statistical data is pointing to a lot of what you're saying. So I really like that. So Michael, we're coming to the point of the podcast to where we like to ask this question from all of our guests. What is a really good book that you'd recommend? And since you're with Keller Williams, you can't say Gary Keller's book, The One Thing.
Well, if you're a realtor, millionaire real estate agent by Gary Keller is also. I'm going to tell you the book that really changed my life this year. I'm on a program where it's a 52-to-1 advantage. And that program essentially means that, the average human being reads one book on vacation if they even get through the book.
Yeah.
And so my goal was to, I started a little late when I picked this up. I started in March, and it was to read 52 books in the course of the year. And I'm somewhere around 38. So it's not too shabby, but it's not going to be 52 unless I make a mad dash on some comics at the end. But the one book that really changed it for me is the 5-second rule.
Okay.
And the 5-second rule is an amazing book, and it literally uses such a basic concept of getting your ass out of bed and getting, things done. And it's literally you count backwards, a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 action type of step. And I can tell you that I've applied that to almost everything in my business. I mean, I went from 6 agents on my team in March to 24 agents currently. And a lot of it was just getting up, getting going, and applying that rule. I'm training for an Ironman for next year.
Oh, nice.
And so a lot of that was just been like, what do I need to do in order to, get there? I got to go do the exercise, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to that. Or I got to find somebody that's going to inspire me to go do the exercise. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go meet that person. And so if I had to, pick one book, it would definitely be 5-second rule. It's a small book. It's an easy read. It's amazing on Audible. I've read it and listened to it on Audible, and it makes a big difference hearing the authors sometimes.
No, that's awesome, man. That's the second time that somebody's recommended that book here within the last few episodes that we've been able to record. So I'm going to have to get that, because right now I am on Gary Keller's The One Thing book. So as soon as that's done, I'll have to do the 5 second book. That sounds really good. So Michael, if folks, we've got a lot of folks that are listening, if they want to connect with you, maybe they want to purchase some properties here in Indiana, or I know you're doing stuff in other states as well. So if there's a way for people to connect with you, what would be the best way for them to connect with you?
So you can always call me on my cell phone. That's 317-645-8717, or michaelmergell@gmail.com. It's a simple one. So the cool thing about the group that I'm actually associated with is, I made a change back in March to be part of something that's bigger than myself. And so I'm part of her group. And Hergen Rother Real Estate is amazing because we're not only here in Indiana in 3 locations. We've got our northern location, we're in Avon, we're in Columbus, Indiana, but we're also in 22 other locations across the United States. We most recently are branching out to Atlanta. And nice. So we have like-minded people that are thinking the same way that I do, that have investor-driven realtors that are on those teams. And so if you need a referral in another location, by all means, reach out to me. I'll hook you up with the right person.
That's awesome.
Because we get this all the time. I get investors that are like in trouble and want to get rid of their property, or they just want to, they want to expand. Hey, I want to get into commercial. So now I want to solve this residential stuff. Well, they not only have, 8 or 10 properties in Indiana, they might have 20 or 30 other properties spanned out that they bought, through some other program in other locations. And so I've hooked up many people to other locations and other states, and I'd be glad to do that for anybody.
Oh man, that's awesome. That is extremely helpful. We'll put Michael's contact information in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode of the No Flipping Excuses Show, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Michael's dropped a lot of great information on this episode. If you're brand new, you should be gaining a ton of information. Re-listen to this episode, because if you missed anything, it's definitely worth listening to or watching. Again, if you're on Facebook right now, you're watching us live, make sure you go ahead and watch it again, because we're going to leave it up there for you. You could take advantage of this. Michael's dropped a lot of information that you can absorb right now, and then you could go apply to your business. So with that being said, if you need anything from us at all, you could always reach out to the No Flipping Excuses team. Our email is support@jasonluchese.com. Again, that's support@JASONLUCCHESI.com. But other than that, thank you so much, Michael Mergell, for joining us today on the No Flipping Excuses show. It's been an awesome show, man. Thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. And for everybody that's listening, we'll talk to you soon. Go flip a house. Talk to you later. Bye.